are none of us on this call, and most of the people that I work with, whether in small, medium, or large businesses, are out of the industrial age. We're not on a factory line. We're not paid to not think, which it was 120 years ago doing widgets. We are all paid, we're knowledge workers and entrepreneurs. We're paid and we pay ourselves and we build businesses. And the way we do that is by thinking, by innovating, by creating, and by executing. And so what does that mean? It means in the old days, for productivity and efficiency, it was about optimizing the hands and the back, right? So those of you, you know, Bobby, your husband works for Raytheon, lean manufacturing, ISO 9000, all those things were designed to optimize manufacturing. The tool today, or what needs to be optimized about us, is our brain. And this is really important for us to know. I'm going to do a 3-minute brain science lesson. And over the years, I have certified in neural leadership and neuroscience, because this is the key actually to leadership, is understanding how the brain works, because we're paid to think, innovate, create, and execute. We build businesses in that same way. So really fast here, organizing principles of the brain. There's 2 of them. 1, the brain avoids threat. Number 1, won't do anything else unless it's calmed down. Number 2, it looks for reward. And in that order, doesn't change. Back of your brain, reactive, unconscious, reflexive, routine. You know the back of your brain because when you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you put your pants on a certain way, the brain knows what to do. When somebody asks you for directions, you go, oh, I don't remember the street names. I just know you go, make a left at the light, and at the Mexican candy store, make a right onto 22nd, I think he said, right? So it's very routine, and it keeps you alive. The brain wants routines to keep you alive. Prefrontal cortex, my favorite word. Intentional. It is where you consciously plan, focus your attention, where you have self-control. Should I do that or not, kind of thing. Intentional follow through or execution. Last piece of the brain science. The more intentional you are, the more your brain cells will fire and rewire and go to the back of your brain and create a new routine. That's how you create a new habit. So the goal with this is, if this is what needs to be optimized, how do we get more intentional? But the real point of this is what I said before. It's no longer about, give me a tip on time management. There's 3 other problems that have arisen that people aren't as aware of that then will deliver you great time management. So here's the 3 key problems that we need to think about. First of all, backbone problem. Our brain is making more decisions than it ever has before. So in the old days, the industrial age, you only had to make 1 or 2. I say this very rarely anymore because it'll age me out, but I'm amongst friends here in Tucson. How many of you remember, you can just raise your hand or whatever, or just think it, the show I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy. Okay. And if you think about the Candy Factory episode, if you think about that, or if you've seen that clip, which is still so popular today, the humor in it is that Lucy and Ethel couldn't do one thing that they were told to do. That's not what we do as entrepreneurs, building businesses, maintaining businesses. We have a million decisions we need to make all day long, and that's what the now is. And what happens is your brain is in survival mode. And so what happens is all this stuff is coming at you. Think about your emails all day long, and our brain goes linear. It just wants to handle things as they come in, and like, okay, if I just get through that, I can get to. And those orange balls are the high value decisions that end up just passing us by. And at the end of the day, we go, where'd the day go? I didn't get anything done. So making these, everything is a decision: email, texts, interruptions, children coming in, dogs opening the door, which mine might be doing right now. All of those are decisions that our brain has to make and pulling from our ability to be effective and efficient. Second problem that exacerbates that, technology. Our attention is under attack, the dings, the pings, and those companies, and we have, I think it's Lisa, who's a social media company, with all due respect, the big companies know how to get your attention when you're on Google looking for something and things are flashing, and before you know it, you go from link to link to link to link. So our attention is under attack while we're trying to make those decisions. And last but not least, we're sort of worn out from it all. There's no banker's hours. We're all working 24 hours a day. And again, now we never know what's going to happen next out there, and we're just sort of worn out. The other thing that I'll say, for those of you that might have small teams, people reporting to you, the other thing that's causing this is the stress of no conventions around our work. So I'll give you an example. There are, business owners or leaders that will text people at 10 o'clock at night. And the people are going, am I supposed to answer that? And the only thing, or on the weekend, am I supposed to? And they're off balance. It's stressful only because we haven't set guidelines. So my teams know because we've made it clear that on Saturday mornings, I answer a lot of emails. Do not answer any emails that you get from me on the weekend unless there's a code in it, in the subject line that says it's emergency, which I never, ever, ever do. So again, how can we help, knowing that's a problem? How do we make sure that even if we have one person reporting to us, that we have clarity about our guidelines of our communication? Okay, so these are the three key problems that we have uncovered. Little research that we did, 350,000 people around the world. We asked them, where do you think you're putting your time, attention, and energy? And what they told us is they feel like they're putting their time, attention, and energy on important things about 60% of the time, and unimportant and irrelevant things about 40% of the time. Well, what does this mean? Few things. It means that people feel like they're wasting half their time. Here's the real, punchline on this that I have found, and I truly, and you heard Bobby say this earlier, pre-pandemic, even now, globe trotting. I've been in a million different countries, from developing countries to, everywhere. And I hear the same results in businesses that are developing or fully developed. These numbers are status quo. Because even today, we'll do assessments with organizations, small, medium, or large, and have people in a 16-question survey answer these questions. And when they do it for the first time, the numbers come out about the same. Why is this important? Because not everybody is really clear on what's important, less important, or not important. Because we're using our brain, we're making assumptions. So what might be important to you may not be as important to somebody else, but we never reconcile that. So people will say, well, is this valid? Because do we all know do my 5 people know what's important? Well, I don't know, do they? But if you're asking yourself that question, you are halfway to the solution, because you really need to get clear what's important, less important, not important, and have a methodology to be able to speak through that and keep everybody at important. I will tell you the expense of this. This is status quo. So when you start a business, when you have a business running, it probably is better right when you start it. But as you know, when you get that business up and you start to flatline, these numbers come right into play. And in a, let's say in a business unit, I can do this with a big company, 500 people in a business unit. The cost of this just to turn the lights on is about $20 million. So if you take a few zeros off of that, even if you have 5 people, you're talking about a lot of waste, because people feel like something may not be important and there's opportunity cost. So imagine the efficiency if we just figured that out. Okay, so let's keep going. Premise. There's a lot of potential in yourselves, even if you're a sole proprietor, in yourselves. We know this, right? And this is my favorite graphic. That's us on the left, right? The value created in ourselves, in the business, in the one or two people that we work with or more. And the goal is, how do we get really good at making the highest value decisions, right? What's the methodology? How do we, in the midst of the craziness out there and our technology, stay focused to do quality work? I'll talk about that in a minute, and have the energy to do that. And I don't mean high energy, like woohoo, high energy. I mean, your brain requires a ton of oxygen and nutrients in order to be able to, you know what happens at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, I can't think anymore, I'm making mistakes, I got to stop. How do we have the energy to not work 24 hours a day, but when we are pointing ourselves at something important, whether it's personal or professional, how do we have quality? And I wanted to speak to quality because over the last 3 or 4 years, as technology has continued to improve and we're speeding through life, I have found more and more people working to hit deadlines, and maybe it's not their best work. So quality is really an important consideration that I think was getting lost in some organizations, just for the speed of, let's get her done. Here's the other thing. We can continue to just be like, this was nice, status quo, buried alive. And because it's like, it feels okay. I will tell you, and this came out in the press interviews that I did, you can Google that up. You'll hear press clips from Entrepreneur Magazine, .com and stuff like that, where they asked about what's the difference between busy and productivity. And it's a big problem because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so busy. It's a badge of honor, right? I'm so busy. Oh, I'm busier than you. And it's not. We are all busy. We are a publicly held company. The end of a quarter is crazy. You're all busy trying to grow businesses. And the answer should be, it was crazy today. And I still managed to get those 2 or 3, 4 things done personally and professionally with quality. That's the goal. None of this is easy. None of this is nirvana. Takes real concentration and discipline in an intentional way. So with that, there's some whys in there and hopefully some tips. Let me just stop and see if anybody has any questions before I move into some more solution. Hopefully I'm not putting everybody to sleep. Okay, so with that, here sort of is how we've really driven up and created things that really help change people's behavior. You can see 5 choices. 2 of them are clearly decision management, 2 are attention management, and 1 is energy management. For our time, I'm going to hit on the first one and then zip through a couple other final points with it, because this is foundational. So act on the important, don't react to the urgent, right? And that's what I was saying before, all these decisions that are coming in, we're just sort of reacting to everything. How do we not do that? How do we get intentional, proactive, act on the important? And the principle here is the principle of discernment. How do I and we discern everything that's incoming, kind of thing? And so some of you might be familiar with this process. If you ever read the 7 Habits or if you read the 5 Choices, we call it the time matrix. And you go, oh yeah. And it was all previously known as the Eisenhower box, by the way, if any of you know that. Stephen Covey took it and really repackaged it with respect to General Eisenhower as well. And it becomes a foundational methodology. This is a language and a methodology that you should speak both with your team, with your family, and again, particularly working remote, everybody, it's, you got to build what we call your remote work muscle. This is a way to do it. It is the word urgent and important put together. Now, you all know what's important in building your businesses, in family. I suggest you get it down on paper if you haven't. And I know there's coaches on this call that speaking to the choir on this, but that important and not urgent quadrant 2, quadrant for extraordinary productivity. I have had people say to me, oh, that FranklinCovey quadrant 2, nice place to be. We don't have time for it. You don't have time to not be here. This is, what are your proactive work, your goal, your high impact goals? What do you want for your business, whether it's your revenue goals? And I'll tell you, your revenue goals, I don't have time to go into all of this. It's not just your revenue goals. What are the lead measures? What are those behaviors that must happen in order to drive what you need, whether it's selling or selling behaviors or marketing? I know we have a lot of different folks on this call that get into each of those areas. Get it down. That third line there, creative thinking. When we redo these slides, which it takes a while to do that because it's in 35 different languages, but when we do that, creative thinking is going to go to the top, because what I said to you before, we are knowledge people, entrepreneurs, paid to think, innovate, create, and execute. That's what gets our businesses up and running. And a lot of times it's like, boy, if I just had some time to think, but I don't have time. You can't be accomplished unless you have time to think. So it needs to be part of your planning. And you'll see down there, relationship building, key to building your business, learning and renewal. What we're doing now, what you do with Tucson Connect is a quadrant 2 activity. So good on you, because you're probably doing this better than some. The key becomes, if I'm really clear on what's important, then what's happening in the other quadrants where I can get out from under the gravel. So quadrant 1, important and urgent. Necessary, crises, last minute things. I bet every one of you knows somebody who is an adrenaline junkie. They live for crisis. It is not healthy, and you'll kill yourself. So particularly with the pandemic and everything else, myself included, never seen stress levels, I mean, anywhere, right? I mean, people are, it's crazy. Let's just leave it at that. And so what are we doing that is exacerbating that? Cortisol is the neurotransmitter, the hormone. Cortisol is what in the old days helped us with saber-toothed tigers, right? And so a saber-toothed tiger would be coming along and the cortisol would flow and it would get oxygen out of your brain into your arms, blood flowing to where your face would get, and all of that, so you can kill the saber-toothed tiger and save your family. Today, we're hitting the cortisol button. You're hitting the cortisol button 100 times a day, and it's sort of killing us. And so we don't want to be in this place. Here's a tip for you. I don't know if any of you have ever procrastinated, but if you have, you had a perfectly good quadrant 2 thing that you went, nah, I'll wait. And one thing about quadrant 1, it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. There's always going to be legitimate crisis. The kids get sick, they come in, or, whatever. God forbid, with sickness, right? So we know that. But if we procrastinate, we took something and let it just no, I'll wait. And before you know it, now I have to get it done. It became a quadrant 1, made quadrant 1 bigger. Whose fault is it? The only person to blame is yourself, because you let it wait until the last minute, and there will be other crises that come up. So be careful with quadrant 1. And what can you do around root cause analysis to stop the chronic crises? Okay, let's drop down to quadrant 3, urgent, not important. This is a really fun place to be able to find time, attention, energy to reclaim. Needless interruptions. I don't know, I'm in the big corporate world. We have a lot of unproductive meetings. You probably don't have as many as some of the large organizations do, but it is a place to find time, attention, and energy, even with your own meetings. Are they agended? Are they for the right amount of time? But really important, other people's minor issues. Now, again, for small business, for you guys, you may not fall, I find you may not fall into this as much, but am I getting stuck with, am I saying, let me just get through these emails and I'll get to the other work, or small things? You got to sort of get those off to the side and do the important things first. But I do want to talk about other people's minor issues briefly. Are you the go-to person? And you're all in business to make money, right? But are you the accommodator, whether with your family, with your staff, if you have a team, and even with your customers? It's like, oh, call Bobby, she'll help you out. She won't charge you. And I'm just using her. In other cases, it could be, hey, and Roger, you don't have to say anything. Hey, Roger, do you know where that, that new thing, the manual is for that new piece of software or whatever? And he goes, oh yeah, Kory, it's on this side. And Roger, you're so good at it. Would you mind just taking like a moment and just showing me? And he goes, and he puts down what he's doing and helps me out. Now that could be internal, and it's worse if it's external. But and I'm not saying don't be a team player, and I'm not saying give grace to your clients. All I'm saying is, are people addicted to your niceness? Are you the accommodator? Are you the go-to person? And I'm not saying don't, I'm saying be intentional, because what happens is Roger says thank you, and then he hangs up with me, and Lisa texts Roger and says, hey, Roger, do you know where that thing is? And he goes, oh, yeah, but, I'm sorry, she texts me and she says, do you know where that thing is? And I go, oh, yeah, it's on the intranet, but you know what? Just go ask Roger, he'll help you. And so everybody's addicted to Roger. And if you start adding up, again, whether it's internal or external, that's a big time waster that we're doing unconsciously, and because we're very nice. I am not saying don't be a team player. I am saying ask yourself, pause and say, is this the right thing to do? Or should I say, listen, or Roger, should he say, listen, you know what, here, I'm going to show you this time, and then here's the manual for next time, and beyond that, we can set up another meeting, kind of thing. So, and then one more here, because it's so important. I'm going to give you my example. I am known in FranklinCovey and anywhere as being a rapid responder. So my reputation around FranklinCovey is Kory will respond. It used to be Kory will respond in 10 minutes. And so, and I remember now the president of the company used to say a number of years ago, oh boy, Kory will get back to you even before you finish writing the email. I'll never forget that line. It was so funny, right? And you're like, oh, that's cool. Here's what would happen. Somebody, and global, remember, somebody would email me. If I didn't get back to them in 10 minutes, I would get a text like, hey, did you get my email? And nothing infuriates me more than that. And I realized that it wasn't their fault. I had made my brand, and I was the one that had to change my behavior. So what did I do? When I was traveling on the road, and I'm an ops person. My background, those of you, if you don't know, I was the EVP, Executive Vice President, Worldwide Operations for Alpha Graphics. That's what brought me to Tucson in the first place. I'm an ops person. I want to fix things. And so when people would send me things, my fingers are itching to help them. The ones that need help right this minute, of course I'm going to help them. And if they're chronic, I'll fix that later. But everything else, I would wait till I was on an airplane at night before I would respond to them. And now I'm careful. I let 3 or 4 hours go by before responding. Or like yesterday, I didn't respond to people. I didn't want them, even though I saw the emails, I responded first thing this morning because I'm addicting them to me. I don't want that. So my reputation is now, Kory is a rapid responder. She will get back to you within 24 hours. I am much happier with that, but I had to change my behavior in order to get them to change theirs. So last, quadrant 4, and then I'm going to ask you for some actions and we'll wrap it up. Quadrant 4, not urgent, not important, quadrant of waste. Now, I do want you either in the chat or come off mute. What do you think? You know, how many of you would like a little quadrant 4, or you feel like I need a little quadrant 4? Anybody want to play? Roger, tell me. So Roger raised his hand. You tell me why. Why do you need a little quadrant 4?
A little downtime never hurts.
Okay. And why do you need downtime?
To, you know, basically recharge my batteries and not be, you can't go all the time. I just need to relax every once in a while.
Okay. Is relaxing important to you?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the moral of the story of me and Roger? What just happened here?
It looks like you moved his time, his important time, up to necessity.
That's it, up to either necessity or productivity. This is, thank you, Roger, for being my foil. It happens every single time. Here's the thing. Quadrant 4 is only about excess. It's only about waste. There's you know, a lot of us were raised with a work ethic to go. And relaxing, taking a break is crucial to the productivity of you building a business or growing a business. You cannot, your brain can't handle it, not to mention your body. There is a lot of confusion here. So a lot of times people will say, oh, you know, they shouldn't be on Facebook or they shouldn't be playing a game, particularly those of you, if you have young, no stereotype, no bias, but if you have young workers, oh, they just want to, it's not the thing or television or gaming, it's the investment of their time. So I happen to like watching television. And if I, you know, yesterday watched a couple hours of whatever, and here's the thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's relaxing. And I can't put a label on this. I can't tell you when it becomes a quadrant 4. What I can tell you is when something becomes excessive, now it's wasteful. So if you're all burnt out and you're laying on the couch all day and you have a family and a dog and whatever, and they're not getting quality time from you because you're wasted and you're watching television all day, now that's a quadrant 4. But no judgment on what relaxes people. You want to play a game for 10 minutes, half an hour, and you're all refreshed? Great. But a lot of times I see this, we make these judgments. So Roger, thanks for doing that with me, because those breaks, your brain requires breaks. There's all kinds of research that productivity increases by 30, 40% taking a break. And a lot of us feel guilty doing that. But when you finish a project, you should don't just start the next one, get up, go take a walk, because it'll give you more of what you need to be even better for the next one. So as we start to come to the top of the hour, and I want to leave you guys some time, I would like you to answer, you know, this question, just for a little action, and let's see if we can get a little discussion going here. Based on this, and I'll put the chart back up, what's one thing that you realize that you could stop doing or change and put more of your time, attention, and energy, or make better decisions on the more important things? So I'll be quiet. You can either put it in the chat, come off mute, but when you think about this, what's something in quadrant 1, 3, 4 that maybe you're doing or you can change that would give you more of what you need to get into quadrant 2 more often and better?
think I need to restructure some of these things because like I get a lot of phone calls for that actually are interrupting that creative thinking, and that creative thinking for us really needs to have quiet time. That's the way we do that. And I'm finding with the advent of the Zoom meetings and there's more of them because there's more communication, I'm having less and less time actually doing the creative thinking. But at the same time, to do productivity, I thought, well, maybe those meetings aren't irrelevant or unnecessary. What I need to do is have more people helping me do the design and me doing more of a leading role of the people that are doing the design. So I may have to restructure my own ideas about what my productivity is.
Bobby, thanks for starting us off with that. And you bring up an important point because delegation is a tremendous piece in quadrant 3 for business owners and leaders. Business owners, it's my baby, I can do it. And what happens is if you are doing all the work that designers could be doing, that is a distraction for you because as the owner of the business and the founder and the developer, you should be working and you all will recognize this on the business, not in the business as much. So it's a really important point that becomes a striking visual here when you think about what your important things are and what you might be currently doing that is a distraction for you that somebody else could be doing well. So thanks for that. Anybody else? Lisa said, working with social media, I get pulled into what's happening with other clients, friends with. Yeah, and it doesn't make you a bad person, Lisa, because you said I often forget what I came for. It gets your brain just suddenly gets exploded with all this other distraction, and your brain, its short-term memory only will sit, that information will only sit there for a short amount of time before it gets overwhelmed and disappears. So that goes to retention. So I really appreciate, and you thinking about, okay, so what is it that I can do? And you don't have to answer this, but I appreciate you becoming conscious of this to say, how do I just get a little more focused to make sure I'm executing on what I came here for in the first place? So thanks for that. Anybody else? I don't like to call on people, so you have to, because, when you call on people, it puts them into their, reactive brain. Ruth is raising her hand. Thanks, Ruth.
Mine's more on a personal level. So at home, I want to stop focusing so much on chores, cleaning the house, getting things done. I'm always making a list for the weekend, and I'm just busy getting things done, cleaning, organizing, dishes all the time, that my family sometimes goes on the back burner. And I want to learn to start putting them as a priority, let the dishes go for a night or two. It's not going to kill me. Let things on the floor. It's not going to kill me. I'm to the point where the kids are playing with their toys. I'm watching them like, okay, time to clean up. Just get it off the floor. So I want to switch my priorities that way.
Ruth, thank you so much. That's very candid and very honest and open and vulnerable. And I really appreciate that because the word quality comes into play here, right? So am I just focus, even if and it doesn't need to be all night, right? Just good focused time, 30 minutes, an hour. And you're right, the dishes will wait. Interestingly, too, a lot of times on the flip side, people will say to me, well, Kory, the laundry, is laundry a quadrant 2? Well, actually, because those things need to get done. And really, it could be, it could be really important because if you don't do the laundry, it's going to turn into a quadrant 1 when you don't have any clean underwear. So there you go, right? So thank you for that. Really, again, thanks for the vulnerability. Anybody else? Nancy.
So first I want to say, Ruth, I saw that you had gone to Mount Lemmon, and my first thing was like, I am so proud of her for taking that time and going off with her family and enjoying it, because we can make ourselves very busy. And I just like, yeah, that's a good thing. You need that. So, but what I found is that because I have a paid Zoom account, people come to me and want me to set up their Zoom meetings, you know, friends that are not in business necessarily. So I have started some boundaries with that, and actually told one group, someone's going to need to learn how to do this, and you're going to have to limit it to, you know, your hour, because I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, Nancy, thanks. I'm in this,
Writing
I was in the same boat with you. And the interesting thing is, when you do say nicely no to people, they'll go, okay. You know, I mean, if you do it the right way, because they're like, hey, what's up with that witch? You know, kind of thing. If you do it the wrong way, right? But because you can't just go and say, hey, I'm not doing that for you anymore. But when you do it the right way, and it's like, you know, I'm doing it this time, you need to set up your own Zoom account. They're like, all right, I get it. Because they know they sort of got a free ride for a while. It's us that needs to do something different. So which you did.
Yeah. So it worked out well, because I had clients that were meeting on Friday, late Friday afternoons. And it was, I just said, it's way too stressful for me to get back to start your Zoom meeting. Let me show you how to do this. I'm very happy because they had a Zoom function, but you know, I eased into it and I had a good excuse. But
Right.
it just relieved me. I didn't understand how, I guess I didn't recognize how much relief it was not to be responsible for that.
Well, and I'll end on that note, because you're saying I didn't realize, that takes us right back to where we started, where we have unconsciously just trying to do everything. And if we just get very intentional and think about all of the incoming, everything, and you get good at this with a little muscle, and more important now than ever, everything that's incoming. What quadrant is this thing? Get really clear on what your quadrant 2 is, with yourself, with others. We call it a culture of productivity. And speak the language with others. Here's our quadrant 2. This feels like a quadrant 3. Could you tell me why it's a quadrant 1 or 2? And be really intentional. And that's really the key to productivity, decision management, attention management, and time management in the 21st century. So with that, Bobby, I'll turn it back to you. The best of luck to everybody as you continue to grow your businesses and stay safe and healthy out there.
Thank you,
Bobby,
Kory.
I'll give it back to you.